Welcome to Morning Infusion with Dr. V, where we are intentional about connecting you with the leaders that have overcome so that you know that the possibilities are endless. It's Dr. V here, where our coaching program teaches nurses to work from their computers anywhere around the world, making money and owning their own time. Our special guest today is Tiffany Nichols. So, Tiffany is a mother of a son, educator, nurse educator, and consultant of 24 years, and the owner of TK Education and Consulting Solutions PLLC. Tiffany's area of expertise includes medical cannabis education, curriculum development, and cultural awareness. Tiffany is also a certified professional coder. Tiffany has been instrumental in assisting nurses, healthcare professionals, and healthcare organizations gain the knowledge that is necessary to add care of medical cannabis consumers to current practice and begin cannabis industry businesses. So, welcome, 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 Tiffany.
Good morning. Good morning.
so, so I wanted to we're gonna dive right in. So, what motivated you to become a nurse from the beginning?
Okay, so I was, good morning, first of all, and
Good
thank
morning.
you for having me. I appreciate it. And a hi out there, everybody. So I was raised by my grandparents
Uh-huh.
from pretty early on and grew up in a large family. And as I grew up and decided kind of what I wanted to do, everyone always told me I needed to be a teacher or a nurse. And I was pretty, and I'm not sure exactly what they meant by that at the time. It actually kind of deterred me a little bit because I was determined to do what they said I should do, what I shouldn't do. I was not going to be a nurse or a teacher because I had heard that so much. So when I went, but in the process of that, living at home as my grandparents aged, I remember being one of the last females that was at home. um, I ended up having to care for my grandparents because I was kind of the oldest and, you know, pretty looked upon as kind of a resource in the family. So in that, I took care of my grandmother and grandfather for a few years. And as when my grandfather expired, um, took care of my grandmother for about 4.5 years. It was just her and I pretty much. So I remember the home health nurses coming to visit her, and I was just so intrigued and thankful, and really admired those ladies. So um, at about that time, I was finishing up high school and thinking about a career path, and went to school. Still didn't sign up for nursing, but as I went to school and started getting those basic things under my belt, and the time was there for me to make a decision. Um, and I just kind of looked around at what I could do the fastest because I had been in high school all this time and I was just ready to get done and do something. So nursing was an option. So there was that nursing thing coming back again. And, everybody was saying, well, you should do nursing. You should do nursing. So anyway, I entered into the nursing program, and it was just the best thing I've ever done. I think this is where I always needed to be or should have been. I just didn't realize the things that people saw in me. I had to start to see those things in myself. So
I think it's interesting that they said that you needed to be a nurse and an educator, and you were trying to go away from that, and that's what you have become, like the two things that they said that
yeah,
you would be.
yeah,
Because as we know, nursing really, really is a very diverse, it's very, very diverse, and it gives you the ability to be able to um, really, really changed the game as far as teaching other people how to do things, right? So
yeah.
that's cool. So now, where did you begin your nursing career, and why did you choose this as a launch point into your nursing?
So my nursing career started. I graduated in 1997 from community college. Because I didn't go away to college, and again, my grandparents were home and aging, so I really had a lot of responsibility at home. So I basically commute. did the commute to school, got my first job. I still stayed at home. I was about 21 years old once I got my nursing license. And so, I mean, that was just, I started out in long term care, med surge. I still always had that home health desire, but you couldn't really get into home health um, um, too easily without some sort of experience. So I just kind of pieced that together for a year or so. And to be honest, when I graduated, there were kind of too many nurses, if you could picture that. It took me about 6 months to get my first nursing job.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Wow.
I don't ever remember it being like that anymore, but that's kind of what was going on then.
And when did you come out of school?
97.
97. Yeah, I came out of 92. I think, around that time, it was kind of oversaturated. And I don't think that we are at a lack of nursing now. I think we still have
Right.
nurses. We just have a lack of nurses who are willing to be at the bedside and endure all the things that are going on at the current moment. So I
Right.
think that's just the change in kind of how nursing is. Now,
Mhm.
you are now a case manager, right? So what attracted you to case management?
Well, I've always liked, again, like the home health type things because I was a field case manager. And I like the connection of going out into people's homes, seeing them in their element. And I just always enjoy that and wanting or needing a change, right from the acute care side of things. So case management, it kind of had both feels. It wasn't so acute, that you still had that face-to-face patient contact. And for me, when I started, it was something new. I had never been on the
So
insurance.
your sound just kind of changed.
Uh, is that better?
That's better.
Hello?
Okay. Yeah.
So it kind of had both feels to it. So it was kind of attracting to me. Again, it was something new. I'd never been on the insurance or the business side of things.
Mhm.
Um, so it just was kind of a natural fit at that time. I still had my son in school, so I had to be able to do school things. So it was easy to incorporate the position into my life, as well.
Gotcha. 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 Now, and it is interesting, the business side of things, because the reality is that we have to balance the business with a care, right?
Hmm.
Because it is such big business. It is huge, 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 right? So now you ride motorcycles for long rides, like ridiculously long rides, in my opinion. Okay, because I can't imagine. But anyway, how did the interest in motorcycles come about, and why the long rides?
Ooh, okay. Ooh, I get excited about this kind of stuff. So, um, the year my son was born, which was 2004, I was always kind of a tomboy. Grew up with the neighborhood kids, and we rode mini bikes, and you know, I was one of the girls that was always out there playing basketball and you know, football and all the kind of a tomboy type stuff growing up. So I always had that, I think, an adventurous spirit. And a lot of years, high school, college, and my son was born in 2004. And I always liked to ride motorcycles, but most of it was on the back with my significant other at that time. And it's just something I wanted to do. Didn't really get a lot of support from that person, so I didn't kind of push it too much. So when my son was born, just because of some other things that had transitioned in my personal life, I kind of realized, my son, it was so easy to kind of lose your identity when you become a mother. And I had done some of that in the past and didn't want to do it again. So while I knew it was important to be a mother and pretty much focus on my child, and what not wasn't married at the time, not still not married, but I needed something kind of for me, and I needed a sisterhood. I don't have any sisters. I needed a sisterhood, so I kind of some close cousins and friends. We kind of got together and toyed with this idea of getting motorcycles and joining a club or starting a club or something. So anyway, that all kind of evolved. I went to safety class, loved it, loved it. I went there not knowing how to do anything with a motorcycle to knowing how to ride.
I love it. Love it. So now why do you take long rides like you do?
At this point, I've probably been riding long distance about 7 or 8 years. So in motorcycle, there's kind of, phases. I like to think, when you're kind of younger, you've got a lot of energy. You have that need for speed, I guess.
Hmm.
So you ride the sports bikes or the crotch rockets, as we call them, and you do those kinds of things. You know, it's mainly short distance, just riding around town. You go and meet your club. You may ride to a bike show or something, but it was pretty much local. But just a lot of it was because of the way we had to ride those bikes. And as we started networking with other groups and seeing other people, older people, looking at riding as more of an enjoyment, not necessarily for sport, if you can. So I said for my 40th birthday, I was going to purchase a Harley. That's a big thing, and everybody knows what those are, the beautiful bikes, and a lot of, I guess a lot of, I don't know how to say it, a lot of, there's a big following, I guess you could say, the culture itself. So, and as you learn more about the way they used to do things in the past and factors that have kind of paved the way, it's just like any other group. There's a history and there's meaning behind lots of things. You just have to kind of get in there and see. So I bought a Harley or Cruiser for my 40th birthday, and those bikes are truly set up for long distance. I mean, they have radios, they have more comfortable seats, your positioning is different, you know. There's all weather clothing, there's boots, there's heated gear, there's everything that you need to be comfortable on these longer rides. So that's kind of key as far as preparation. But I started just kind of riding with different people, and I say, okay, let's go here. It may start out with a few hours, and it may start out with a day trip or a weekend. And you just identify places that you kind of want to go. You get invited to events and stuff. And my first long ride was probably to the beach. I love to go to the beach, which is
But
about 4 hours from me.
you've been
Myrtle
to like
Beach, North and South Carolina
Louisiana.
beaches.
But
Uh-huh.
you've been to Louisiana, right?
I have, I have. Well,
That's what
that's
I
one
mean
of
by
the
them long
things.
rides. Do it
Yeah,
now.
well, I've been to Key West. That's and New Jersey's probably the furthest this way.
Ah, so is New Jersey further than Key West?
It's a different direction.
Just different direction. Gotcha,
Yes,
gotcha,
Key
gotcha.
West. This once you get to Florida, which is about 8 hours, it's still another 500 or so miles. So
Ah,
it was a pretty. We were kind of doing this challenge, like we still do challenges. We've done like 1,000 miles in one day for 24 hours. So there's all kinds of things, and
I love it.
I'll try anything I want. There's historical rides, there's female rides, and a lot of different things.
That you can do.
Yeah.
Now, you had a patient that changed your thoughts on cannabis. Tell us the story and what about it changed your thought process as it relates to cannabis.
Okay. And those were that was during my my case management years. About 4 or 5 years ago, I was out there in the field visiting people in their homes. So I had started to think about starting a consulting company. That was kind of a backstory going on. I was looking for something new and different. You'd hear about cannabis in the news a lot. We would hear a lot about what Colorado was doing at that point because they were kind of a little more advanced. a lot of areas of the country. So I went and visited this gentleman, or we had a report. I was on my caseload, and he had a terminal cancer. And this gentleman, a lot of times we like to talk about those model patients, and he was that. He was just that. And, he was a model patient. His family was excellent, really loving, really caring. But this gentleman had primarily exhausted a lot of his medicinal options like chemo and radiation, and he was most likely headed toward palliative or hospice care. And, in talking and visiting with this gentleman over several weeks, he shared a lot. And to sum it up, this man really had, a gentleman, excuse me, he still had a zest for life. He wanted to live. His family, I mean, they were desperately trying to find ways to, keep their dad here. Um, so it was over a weekend. He was one of the first patients I would see on Monday. So I went to visit him, and we done our morning ritual as far as the job job role. And he actually excused himself. So he went back to his bedroom, and he came back with a bottle. It reminded me of a bottle of kind of like sometimes you'll buy the protein supplements. It was that big. And so I was like, oh, okay, he must have went to the health food store over the weekend or somebody and got some sort of supplement or vitamin. So he handed it to me. He didn't say anything, he just handed it to me. So I was reading and I'm like, okay, this is cannabis. This is medical cannabis now. Again, growing up, I didn't know anything about marijuana or cannabis. Or if I did, it was just something that you didn't dare do. And it was sometimes a negative. You would hear about people that were addicted and, it had consumed them and consumed their life. So most of what I knew about cannabis was not really that great. So I'm like, oh, okay, well, this is medical cannabis. And we started to kind of talk about it. So basically, he explained, he said, yes, this is what it is. My son wanted me to try it. So his son had driven out to Colorado from North Carolina over the weekend and purchased this for his dad. Because again, they wanted him to live. They wanted to give him every possible chance out there. So at that point, internally, I'm like, oh my God, what am I supposed to do? How am I going to? But I knew I needed to be an advocate. I know that is one big thing of mine. You have to be an advocate no matter what situation, because in the home, you never know what you may. People are in their own element.
Right.
I knew I needed to know something as far as possible, would it interact with things that he's doing? How should he start the conversation with his doctor? Um, some of those things will increase your bleeding risk. I knew basic things, but I just wasn't sure at how to really, what I felt like properly educated. I knew we needed to know a little bit about what's going on legally. Is this legal? So forth. So it was at that moment I knew I needed to know something about this. This is obviously a thing. Also, started to recall various visits with other patients over the years where, again, we're in a home health setting, um, where you may drive up for your visit and they may be on the porch smoking a joint or blunt, as they call it. Some people were very honest. They would say it helps pain or helps keep me calm, or they would tell me what benefit they felt like they got from it. You know, but when I had to say, well, no, absolutely not, you just learn to listen, you know, and educate them as best you can, you know.
And you
So
like the honesty of your patients, right? You like the
yeah,
honesty of, I had this guy come in, we had to ask a question, especially after we had there was a patient that, you know, forgot it's, this whole culture of suicide and things of that nature. So you have to ask those questions, right, whenever they come into the emergency department. So one of the questions that you have to ask, because that leads into, sometimes drugs can be the gateway into your suicide ideations, right? And so one of the questions that you ask is, do you do drugs, right, or do
Hmm.
you do any illegal substances? And this one guy was like, I smoke weed every day. And I was like, okay. I mean,
Yeah, they'll be very, yeah, they'll be very honest with you.
and I
And
was like, okay.
yeah, but at the end of the day, as a whole, what I realize is that people do a lot of self-medicating.
That's right.
And so, it was those things that, again, I was in transitioning out of a job. At that point, I was fortunate to take a few months off. So again, kept researching and studying and more interesting. And this was a possible opportunity for me to, transition into. So it just kind of was a natural fit. A lot
Yeah.
of it was.
Now you have a course and you're teaching about cannabis. Who is your target market and why did you choose cannabis over any other course?
Okay. So again, as I was researching and I was trying to get what I felt like I needed for my practice, I realized that there's got to be other nurses out there that need this and other health professionals. And so there weren't really many courses out there at all that taught us how to care. What do we do when they end up in the ER or on our surgical table? Um,
Because it's gonna
so
happen. And it has happened.
it
Right.
has happened. And
Right.
so, those are the drive behind me. And again, an opportunity. I'll be totally honest. There's so much opportunity in the cannabis industry.
Right.
Of course, on the medicinal side of things, I'm also looking for ways to create generational wealth for my family. Uh, Truly service-based businesses. It is a service. Wellness. Um, we didn't get these things in nursing school. Doctors didn't get it in pharmacy school. So that's why I focus on nurses and healthcare professionals. And again, now that cannabis based businesses are being established, there's also an education need there, which is definitely my passion. So, there's opportunity on both sides.
I was on Clubhouse this morning and the guy, he was talking about the fact that um I forgot what he said was the first area in which we are consuming this, during this era. The second one was technology, but the third one was information, because the reality is that, you know, and not that I don't love school and don't love the curriculum, okay, but there's some concepts that you go over in school that just does not serve you well. I mean, it just is what it is, right?
Hmm.
I mean, I there's certain concepts, there's certain theories that I will never use. There's certain algebraic methods I will never use. I mean, it just is what it is, right? It just doesn't make
Yes,
sense, right? So, and I know that it is I'm not sure exactly what the primary concept or the primary reasoning for it is, but really, really understanding that to get from point A to point B, you need someone who has already done that thing, right?
yes,
You need someone who can get you from point A to point B. And you being in the cannabis industry, and just teaching people, not just because people, I think it has a different, a negative connotation. I mean, I've had my own perspective on it for sure. Okay. But having the understanding that it is coming. It is coming a lot faster than what we used to always think that it is. And just really, really having an understanding of it so that we can better take care of our patients, so that we
yes.
can better take care of our nurses who are taking care of the patients, so that they have the understanding across the board. So I think that's super, super important. Now, what are some of the advantages and challenges that you have faced related to cannabis?
Okay, the challenges, of course, the main one is that it's still federally illegal. It is still a Schedule One substance, which it hinders research. It hinders you know, it's the stigma, as you just mentioned. There's, it's still, you can still be persecuted for certain things. Of course, I don't do any plant touching or plant facing. All I do is education and consulting. So it does not limit me a lot. And that's one of the advantages of being an educator. Education is needed on a wide scale, no matter where you end up in the industry. Um, so advantages, and I think that what's proving, what the research is showing, that patients and consumers, they are really getting some amazing wellness results from plant-based medicine, cannabis. Um, and the states that are now legal, you're seeing they are donating a lot of money into social equity causes, in communities are thriving because they have this new revenue. So, those are definitely some positives.
Gotcha. Now, what is a book that has impacted you and why was it so impactful?
Let me say that again.
A book that has impacted you and why was it so impactful?
Uh, I'm gonna. I think Strengths Finder.
Okay.
Um,
Is that like a disc assessment?
it is a type of assessment.
Okay, okay, all right.
And I think during the time where I was, I feel like a seasoned nurse. I think about year 13 before I went back to school the first time. And I was in a home health position. I'd been out in the field. I wanted to transition into management. I wanted to seek out other opportunities. I don't feel like I was really supported by my administration at that point in time. And when I approached them about seeking other opportunities, it's for whatever reason they didn't feel like I was ready. I may have not been, but I feel like I was. But I think instead of really kind of having that conversation with me and um, groom me or maybe mentor me, I think they kind of took the high road and they gave me a book.
And that's the book that they gave you.
It was the Strengths Finders, and I'm like, but now I can look back on that and I can say that that's probably the best thing that ever happened. Because now, needless to say, I did not stay there very much longer. But from there, I can honestly say I went on to be very successful in a lot of other areas. And it's really been nothing but forward progression for me. So sometimes, although people don't want to support you for their own personal reasons, it may not be a positive. Sometimes we can take those things and the tools that they give us, we can still learn something from those
That's
people.
right.
And
Things
then
that,
we take it to move forward with it.
I always say that things don't happen to us, they happen for us. Everything. And understanding your strengths is super, super important because
Mm-hmm.
when you understand your strengths, then you can understand your weaknesses, right? And when you understand your weaknesses, then you can hire to your weakness, right? That is huge, huge. And I didn't, I just really just got that here recently because I need
Mm-hmm.
to understand how good I am in these areas. I'm good at getting it done. Now the process to getting it done, forming those processes, I'm not necessarily the best, right? And
Right.
I know that, right? And so then I hire to that weakness so that we are both successful in what we do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's super important. So how can the audience find you?
Okay, I am on Instagram at Canib Nurse. That's CANNIBNURSE. My website, which tells more about what I do, course offerings, so forth. Our conference is coming up next year. Um, that is tk-solutions with an s.org. That's tk-solutions with an s.org. You can contact me through the website. You can email me. at TK Solutions with an S 2019 at yahoo.com. I'm on Clubhouse, Facebook, all your platforms. DM me. I'm in a lot of different areas, so look forward to hearing from some of you.
I know that's right. I know that's right. So we will be starting another cohort of VP Nursing Business Academy in October. It is a six-month comprehensive program that leads nurses and coaches them to working from their computers anywhere around the world, making money and owning their own time. If this interests you, we can jump on a call so that you are able to gain clarity on how to create multiple streams of income. You can sign up at V as in Victor, P as in Paul, nursing.com. I ask that you like and share this podcast. And just know that Morning Infusion with Dr. V, we're intentional about connecting you with leaders such as Tiffany who have overcome so that you know that the possibilities are endless. You guys have a phenomenal rest of your day.